I'm Timmy.
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan.
And this is Three Old Tech Dudes.
Yeah.
A friend from high school reached out to me, and her grandfather had recently passed away. He was pretty old, in his 90s.
And I had met him.
Yes. We got over there, and she said, well, he liked to tinker with electronics and radios.
Yep.
And would I like to come and look through it and take what I wanted, basically? And I said, yeah. And I went over there, and it was just unbelievable. There was a full electronics workbench, vintage. He'd saved all sorts of things. Looked like he took televisions apart. Found his call sign on his license plate. And amongst other things, there was a lot of neat stuff there we're going to show you here.
Did she not make the comment that she wished she had had a camera on your face when you walked down
Just
into
the
basement?
sheer joy, she said, yeah. Because I was just like,
oh my God.
wow. I mean, it was unbelievable.
There was
and it's still unbelievable.
Stacks and stacks of stuff.
So,
oh my word. And there was a full garage full of
I didn't even
stuff.
see that the first day.
You need a rotor.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the guy basically rebuilt rotors and sold them.
Yeah. So
And that's how I met him.
here's a little look inside that house right now.
So when you encounter a situation like this, you never quite know what to expect. Is it a few things? Is it a few old radios? Is it just scrap metal? When we got to this house, I believe I made 3 different trips. One on my own, one with Nathan, and then a final trip to help finish up because this house is being cleaned out to be sold. So I go into this basement and there's this gorgeous old desk. Well, I guess gorgeous is a relative term, but it had a cool old radio or 2 on it. And then you rounded the corner and there was a whole workbench. Mostly with just stuff just piled on it. It probably hadn't been worked, I bet, in 20 plus years. And it was really cool to see, as you see here. And it was clear there were a lot of things there, but the deeper we dug, it was just really something to see. So how much stuff was there? Well, so what you've witnessed here is probably the greatest act of electronics hoarding that's ever been done. And for those of you who know about how I used to collect old computers, that should impress you. So let's dig in and take a look at all of it. What do you think? All right, so I think I'm just going to take you guys through everything that I've got here that I found. I've really not went through it, and I don't really know what to do with all of it. But here we've got a Heath Cantenna. It's a pretty popular dummy load. You fill these with mineral oil, and it's a big capacitor. I think this may be a signal tracer for tracing, audio signals and whatnot in electronic circuits, probably homemade. Here we've got, what I'll assume is a 12-volt power supply. We'll dig into this in the future in a video. Here we've got a little Mallory 0 to 8 volt variable power supply. We've got this electronic voltmeter. I think there's 2 of these. Got another one at the house. You'll see it in a bit, maybe, if I'm right. Here's a Commercial Trades Institute tube tester. Tube checker, yeah, very cool. The components this fella had stashed away are spectacularly something to see. You got everything from project boards to disassembled who knows what. Lots of old speakers, looks like mostly pulled out of television sets. I can't decide if this guy repaired TVs. I think he might have at some point. This one we got a lot of components. Yeah, cool. Well, you name it, it's here. Alliance tenor rotor controller. And another tenor rotor. Speaking of rotors, this guy built them and repaired them. Nathan, start there, the video said that he's bought some, so some of these look to be new old stock. They have tags on them like he's tried to sell them at Hamfest and like in the past, and they didn't sell maybe. And here's speaking of Alliance rotors, here's a big stash of those and a couple more control boxes. Click, 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 click. Quick click. Those of you who've ever used one of these know exactly what I'm talking about with my clicks. These are out in the garage. I wouldn't normally save old electrolytic capacitors. They're new old stock, but I don't know. We'll put some of them on the cap test at some point and see if they're any good. Some coax. Some wire. One of the big things, and I mean there's hundreds of these maybe. Check these out here. So these are variable caps, like, you know, open air capacitors. I just now noticed they came from Sarkis-Tarzian. I'm not sure if I'm saying that. They owned Channel 4 here in Indiana years ago and still own WTTS, the broadcast station in Bloomington. Date packed May 1953. That's really something. So, pull one of these out and show you what they are. And I mean, these things were packed. They have, you know, all the stuff to keep them dry. But every one of these has a little trimmer variable capacitor. Those are so cool. So, keep that in mind. I'm going to show you guys something here. There's lots of things to show you. There's a massive amount of these transistors. All kinds of them in different packaging. And to go along with that, you talk about tubes. And a lot of these are television horizontal output tubes. And I mean bunches of them, guys. More here. Where else were there? Some here. Just tons of them. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I got to looking at that, and I thought, what in the world did this guy have all these for? Well, let me show you this. So found this, right? A lot of you immediately know what we've got in our hands here, because they were built a lot. You're not really supposed to build these, especially for a certain, shall we say, 11 meter band. Got a couple of those transistors in them. Has a tiny trimmer cap in it. Look in there's horizontal output tube, right? I think this fella, at one point or another, was building these. Why do I think that? Well, that's why there's a bunch of them. I'm hoping we can mod these for some other band. We'll talk about that in the future. So while we're talking linear amplifiers, there's a few more. This looks like a good old, you know, buy it at the truck stop under the radar Citizens band rig. We're not going to use these for that. It's not legal. Don't do that. 10 meters, we can talk, as long as they're not dirty. But look at this. Nothing says 10-4 good buddy like some big beast like this. Big power transformer. 4 output tubes. This is unreal. I bet he built this one too. So I think this guy may have had a, you know, a shop doing this. It wasn't a public shop. That's what his family tells me. So that's really something to see, isn't it? Had other odds and ends, like a couple old 8-track car players. See if we can get them working. Why not? There's a bunch of component trays, all kinds of little things in them. Everything from capacitors to connectors to sorted resistors. Here's a whole nother tote of those variable capacitors, the Sarkis-Tarzian ones. More tubes, big heat sink. It's really something, guys. It's going to take a long time to go through all this. What's in here? Oh man, what's this? Oh look, more tubes. What are you? What are you now? Oh, Citizens band rig. Set these fellers out of the way. Here's a night code oscillator. Hook your code key to that and practice. A General Electric Unimeter. Look at that guy. That's pretty cool. I'd have to say I didn't even remember getting that one in the box. Some sort of intercom rig. Oh, look, another commercial trades voltmeter. Cool. I still think there's another one of those in the house. I may have 3 of those in this set. There's a myriad of old television antennas off of portable sets. Good old timey RCA rabbit ears. They're buried in these boxes, but I tell you what, there are all kinds of these big meters of various sorts. The DCM meter here, it looks like. Got here. Oh, cool. Old car radio. What kind are you? A Philco. Probably from a Ford. There it is, Fomoco. That one's an older one, early 60s probably. What about this? A Delco GM AM radio. I'll have to get them on the channel. What's this guy? Lafayette Explorer Air. Oh, cool. This is like a tuner deal. Oh, I bet we can get that working with a little effort. It's missing most of its tubes. Some regeneration. I wonder if it's a regenerative receiver. Some Commercial Trades Institute study manuals. I believe this was a, correspondence school, as they used to call them. Nowadays, we'd call this online school. Online was books in the old days. Oh, it's television, huh? Cool. Waiting for a year. Doesn't really tell us. I guess the 1950s. Neat. Some last stuff I got, I was going through the drawers in the shop, and there's a lot of clamps, muffler clamps in this case, for antenna mounting. I'm sure there's a lot of use them for. And some transformers. There are some more component trays. Several of those. Here's a whole stash of old tube sockets. So stuff you don't see every day now. What are you now? Push button maybe? Or a light, maybe a light bulb. Yeah, cool. Just a lot of stuff he's disassembled and saved, and all kinds of components and fuses. A lot of Philco stuff in his stash. 40 picofarad capacitor, just probably still good today. Nowadays. Lots of these little terminal blocks, those can be useful for lots of projects. Some mounts that look like they fit those tube sockets. Some old capacitors. I don't have a lot of hope for old capacitors, especially paper ones. Or, the foil entered ones. I don't think I would use those, but grabbed them anyway. A lot of grommets. Get your wire through those metal areas really nicely. A few things that pointed toward maybe he worked on televisions, some Philco main boards with new tubes in them, new old stock, and absolutely they're in here. How about that? Some tubes are missing. I wonder if that's not the horizontal output tube. Another clue to the linears. April 7th, 1966. How about that? There's 2 of these, I think, and they are identical. This one has more tubes. The date's a little different. Oh, wait. August 19. I'll bet that's 66. Stamps are rubbed on it. These were, keep in mind all this stuff was headed to the garbage. I thought this was cool. Got a TV service call book, with duplicate. And so you go to somebody's house and work on their television set, and this would be how you'd bill them, write their bill out, in multiple duplicate copy there. Carbon copy, that's the right word. Don't use those much anymore. These component traders, something. Here's a whole box of crystals. Channel 7, yeah, transmit. These are darn near unobtainium now. Is that a 6 meter one? It might be. Some more example of, you know, the components. All kinds of stuff. It's just unbelievable. So glad to have saved this stuff from the trash. He had a ton of these relays. It all look like basically, you know, Lochtel tube sockets. At least I think they're Lochtels. I don't know. Close. Then he'll, you know, there's entire boxes of variable caps. Still wrapped, you know. I'm like, holy cow, man. I saved this. I mean, selenium rectifiers are crap and you shouldn't use them nowadays, but that box is pretty neat. You know. It's actually in there. By golly, look at that. Look at that, fellers. That is wild. So this is only from loads 2 and 3 of the trip to the house. Got a whole lot of stuff that you haven't seen yet that I'm going to show you now. An SWR meter. A Regency scanner. This voltmeter. This Midland 23 channel CB radio. Various manuals and photofact folders. This early 70s RCA 9-inch black and white TV. This Hallicrafter CB radio. Another Regency crystal scanner. And this homemade deal here, which I think is a transistor tester. This realistic 23 channel CB radio. And another Regency crystal scanner. This awesome Knight 6 meter transceiver, along with the Turner Plus 2 microphone. This Royce 23 channel CB radio base. Another Hallicrafter's vintage CB radio. This home assembled Variac. An antenna selector. This ITT 40 channel CB radio. This thing's actually pretty cool. I just remember one more thing from what I've got here. I saw this right at the end under a cabinet. Blonder Tongue. Company, it may still be around, I think. Sells television distribution stuff and signal generators and odds and ends. I thought surely that's not actually in here, but I'll tell you what, guys. It says Audio Master Blonder Tongue. And look at this. I don't know what it is. I assume it's signal generation for television. We'll be doing more on this in a future episode once we learn more about it. But tube type, original box. It's really something. So down the road you'll see a lot of content out of this stuff, I hope. A lot. And it's been an honor to save this stuff. Current owner, you know, granddaughter didn't really know what it was. And why would she? Most people wouldn't. Not a lot of this stuff left out there. I mean, there's plenty of new old stock, but basically a guy's workbench preserved 30 plus years. That's really something. Honored to save John N9CMM's items. So, put it to good use. His granddaughter tells me he's the kind of guy that wouldn't want anything given away, so hopefully he's not shaking his fist from heaven down at us, but we'll take good care of this stuff.
So yeah, this fella, John N9CMM was his call. You know, It was just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
He
Amazing
rebuilt
stuff.
And sold rotors, correct?
Yep.
You
Yeah,
knew
and I
that
have
personally. So.
Yeah, and it's actually in a room beside us here.
Yeah.
It's sitting
One that
on
you
the floor
bought
right
back
now,
in the 90s probably, maybe even before. Well, it would have been before.
Yeah, it was Dewey introduced me to him, and I bought it from Dewey Satter, so WD9DK, which I believe
long
he's
time
changed
local
calls since
ham.
then, but yeah, and he helped me put that rotor up on a tower too. Mag still works too, which is really cool, but
that's awesome.
I know they're stout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the big bell type rotors. These things will turn a car, I think.
Yeah, they're pretty nice. They're not the big ones, but they're bigger than your typical like Alliance tenor rotor. And there were several of those, as you just saw in that stash. So
all kinds of stuff in this thing. And some
plenty.
But yeah, the CB radios, and you saw the horizontal output tubes and what I am pretty sure are Citizens band CB linear amplifiers. We finally determined that Mr. N9CMM was probably building 200 to 600 watt Citizens band linears out of old television sets. Yeah, just based on the tools he has. Yeah, so
that's a little bit of a no-no from the FCC perspective.
But he's gone now, so they can't get him.
Yeah,
and he probably hadn't done it.
Are we sure they can't get him?
I don't know.
Yeah. At this point, yeah. I mean, they work good on ham radio too.
So I'd like to see what we can do with those. I'm not about to put them on the Citizens band, but I'm hoping we can put proper filtering on them and use them on 10 meters. I'd like to try that.
I think we can.
We usually probably have to add some sort of filtering that they don't have. Usually those are wide open and crazy nasty. So.
We dump. I've got a big dummy load. And,
that's where we start, obviously.
Yeah. And we'll put it on a spectrum analyzer and see what it does. But yeah, my guess is honestly those probably are pretty decent.
It depends. Yeah, I haven't even so much as examined them, but other than look at that, like you guys saw there. But
I mean, they're using sweep tubes.
How about that 6 meter radio? That thing's pretty sweet. So we're going to get that on the channel for long.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff and so little time lately. It was just obtain these things, get them stored, go through them later. So
yeah, and it's literally what happened. Like my favorite was the variable capacitors.
Yes. Yeah.
He didn't have like 20 or 50. There was like 100 or 2.
That's actually what clued me into what he was building because in what is it, 3 or 4 of those linears that match, those are part of it.
Oh yeah.
As are some old Motorola power transistors are found. So
brand new. I mean, we opened up. What was it? Cabinets.
Cabinet. There was just stuff full of them, still boxed and wrapped in foil. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there was so much stuff.
Yeah.
And you got a Variac out of that, didn't you?
I did, and you guys are going to see that on the channel here in just a couple weeks. So
awesome.
Went through that, and it's a homemade Variac, but it's really just a variable power transformer he got, and then he wired it all together properly versus the ones you can buy that had the plugs in them already.
Yeah,
but it's really
like
neat. And yes, exactly. Yeah, the common round one there.
Yeah. I got it at Hamfest for like $1 or something.
Sure, yeah. Well, mine was free. So.
Well, that's true. I've had mine for a few years.
I did give Crystal a little bit of money, the girl that sold us that stuff. I wasn't about to just take
a quarter wave at.
Yeah, and I'm slated to go there a third time just to get a few things I've forgotten. So
yeah, we need to take like a trailer this time and just pile it in.
So
there was
because they're cleaning it out, otherwise it's going away, and they're still in process.
They're just going to throw it in the trash. Which I mean, we might as well grab it and do whatever.
It's a cool thing to save a guy that loved electronics.
Yeah,
his stuff. So and use it and repurpose it. And, in our case, put it on YouTube. So
if you show up at the Hamfest, you might see some of the extra.
Yeah, we're gonna have to part with some of it. So
because it's like
we've just shuffled through it. We haven't really haven't done a lot with it yet.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. Wow, neat though.
It was very.
It was a bit musty.
Yeah,
but
still smells that way. But that's part of living in a basement.
Yeah, so. I actually had trouble breathing. I do not have asthma, and I had trouble breathing there.
It was thick.
It was the stuff that he had in there. Like he had some he got QSTs. Oh, he had some QSTs. He also had some handbooks.
Yeah,
he had a couple of amateur radio handbooks that were. I think I had one of the years, and I didn't have the other year, something like that. But, neat stuff. It's one of those things where you get the, you're helping a friend, cleaning stuff out, and you did give him some money, but it's one they really just wanted the stuff out of the way because they didn't know what to do with it. Honestly.
Yeah, but there aren't. There probably are some, but it's going to get more and more scarce, things like that. First, I thought it was a television repair shop until I figured out the televisions were the donor items to the linears. So
yeah.
Whether it be power transformers or. He may have just been recycling copper too.
Because it looked like he was he was actually winding his own coils.
Yeah,
that's like his own transformers. That's actually that's hardcore.
Yeah. So it's a neat thing to do, and it wouldn't hurt my feelings if you guys come up with some more that we can salvage and rescue. So don't let old radio and television gear go to the dump. Don't do it. Find somebody that wants to love it, because there's still people as crazy as us out there. We're not the only ones.
No, we are not the only ones to do this.
And you'd be surprised what we'll take.
That's right. Well, guys, let's dig into the comments here on YouTube. Okay. What do you think? It's time for Echoes from the Asylum, the part of the show.
Echoes.
I thought I heard from scratching the walls.
Yeah. Screaming and running into walls in the straitjackets. Every week it happens. Oh, so let's jump right into it. This is on the, it's titled, We Found an RCA VKP-900 Portable VCR.
Oh, it's right there.
We've always thought we were going to do more of those. Yeah, most of these things live in your basement, yes.
Well, it's there, yeah.
It's right there. It's right there.
Like my Atari 400. What's off camera is I've got like that whole wall's
we're just surrounded.
This is my basement. So
that's right.
This is my studio. So there's the audio rack behind me and all that mess. But
so try catfilms. Right. It's like try space catfilms. So okay. Maybe it's films of cats.
Alrighty.
They had one of these. My dad bought it for I think around $800 to $1,000. Yeah, this thing was a tank.
Oh yeah,
and awesome.
Yeah,
we would rent cameras at the local video store and take the portable unit with us to make movies.
Yep.
Shows you how expensive the cameras were. They rented them.
Oh boy, yeah.
Also, the audio dub feature was great. We would record Soul Train on the VHS tape that audio dubbed the Beatles or something. It was hilarious.
So we will see that VCR because I plan on using that at least to power some of the cameras for a future episode.
All right.
Awesome.
Which I have. And I also have a separate power supply, but it's one of those that it still needs belts, which I just need to order. Other than that, there's nothing wrong with that unit.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
And I paid $5. It was on one of our first videos where we went somewhere.
The Columbus Ham Fest. I think that is where you got that.
Yeah, I think it was like $5. I may have been 10, but $5 or $10.
Excited.
Yeah, that thing. I was like carrying it out of the car.
There were a lot of good finds at that Ham Fest.
Oh yeah, well that's where
that's when I bought that radio too, wasn't it? The Admiral.
You got that at our Ham Fest. I got a Philco there that's similar looking. So.
Oh yeah, I got my IC2GAT.
Yes, you did. The murder bad, Nathan.
The murder bad radio. Yeah. Don't beat people with the radio. It's not a good.
It needs to be in our future merch when we get it going. So look soon for merch. I really want one of those shirts to have just Nathan's face with a big grin holding the 2GAT and it just says murder bad underneath. So
it's our family motto. No kidding.
Every family's got to have one.
Hey.
Oh man.
It's a good one to have.
That's right. So thanks for that comment from Try Cat
That's a
Films.
good comment. Yep. I like that. Yeah, because that's I back in the day I did actually work on all those VCRs and stuff like that.
Did you know I commit a common faux pas when I repair tube radios?
Would you touch the tube?
No, it's a common faux pas amongst restorers. They don't like the way I do a thing.
Solder?
No. Well, that's happened, but it's usually not them.
Well, you just
and this comment
120 volts into an unwilling possibly radio and
forced capacitor reformation. Yes.
That doesn't work.
Well, this comment regards that. This comment is on the Westinghouse antique radio repair, which is a 1959 Westinghouse H673T5 tube radio that my grandfather bought new in 1959 or 60. So there's Johan van Wijngaarden.
Okay.
Right. Why not put the new C in the old orange C? That looks so much better. The C being a capacitor. A lot of people who restore tube radios or any old electronics, they'll often have a stand-up big capacitor or something on the board or on the chassis.
Yep.
And a lot of the guys who really care about how it looks will gut that capacitor and pull its insides out and then put modern electrolytics in it to hide them.
I never actually thought about that.
A lot of the guys who really want it to look authentic do that.
Yeah.
Or they'll leave the old one in place and detach it if it's an older metal chassis and then put them underneath.
Because the new ones are
if you watch that video, I just hacked off the orange capacitor, talked about how much I hated it, threw it aside, and then soldered 3 long electrolytics in there haphazardly, but safely. And I knew somebody would go, why? And somebody did. So
I've never really, that's actually an interesting comment because I've honestly never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Which is it's an interesting, it's an interesting way. That's neat.
Now, if I had a gorgeous old boat anchor.
What was the guy's name? Johan?
It's Johan. Yep.
Johan. That's actually, thank you. That's a neat idea. I'll have to keep
I knew about it. I was just lazy with that radio because for one thing, you can't openly see the electronics like you can subtube gear.
Well, yeah.
If it was a Hallicrafters with a fold-up lid or something like that, and in fact on the S40 when I recap it, I will leave it has a vertical silver one in it. It's not bad yet, but if I do choose to fully recap the radio, which I might because it's my dad's, he recently picked up.
Yeah.
That may be how I do it. So.
Okay. That's a neat idea
than me, though. I'm moderately afraid to touch my old radio.
There's a lot to learn, to be honest. You got to be very safe.
Well, so I have a degree in electronics. We don't know.
And, like I've recently picked up an isotap transformer because some other people have also been concerned. They haven't commented, but I get down likes. I'm pretty sure it's because I do things wildly and strangely.
I'm concerned you're going to hurt the Timmy.
Yeah. The reason being, see if I get this right. Actually, you explain why you need an isotap.
Okay, so
even though we're going to do a video on this soon.
Some chassis, that'd be the circuit board, and an older radio is usually called chassis. Or in TVs, it's still called chassis. Mm-hmm. So they will run pretty much everything as a hot chassis. So the ground in the chassis is not actually ground, or earth is not actually earth if you're from not here in the United States. So what you do is you run a transformer that effectively allows that to actually be grounded without causing some kind of weird electrical short or hurting the person working on it. Because a lot of times they will use sort of, I really think it's like the worst way physically possible to build anything, because I've worked on this stuff for years and you can get hurt real easy. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not impressed with the concept of that. But
especially
very bad for that.
Due to the step up voltage on the flyback and stuff. Because the idea here is, I guess, is that you could ground back to the neutral on the power system, right? That's what I've always read. In particular, that's not
hot chassis. So hot chassis, literally, if you measure it, will be sitting there. The ground on that will be sitting there roughly 60 volts or 40 to 60 volts above zero, which you don't really want in all reality. So what you're saying is
you could almost get away with touching that if you're on an isolation transformer.
Yeah, because you could physically ground that to earth if it goes to the transformer. Because the transformer isolates that section from actually power. Yeah. The thing is, it's really done a lot in TV sets because they were trying to cut costs because it's all about cheaper. Expensive. And switching power supplies. So a lot of the power supply in a TV, modern television. Well, not modern TV. Modern TVs are completely switching, but last generation of CRT TVs would use the high voltage transformer, the IHVT, which is the flyback, but technically it's an IHVT, or integrated high voltage transformer. They would use that as a switching power supply. So you would have a hot section, small hot section that's always powered, and then everything is cold ground. So there's no problem if you touch that; it wouldn't hurt you at all. But there are some TVs out there, like the TX81 chassis, I think is what it was from, it was the RCA, but they didn't make it. They bought it. But it was like the whole chassis was hot. You like the receiver module in the thing literally had a DC isolation, system built in. So it was just absurdly ridiculous. Because if you accidentally touched that and didn't realize it was a hot ground, you just burn the chassis. I mean, it would literally, there's a resistor that it would just burn off.
Okay.
I get why they did it, but I still think it was like the worst thing ever. But that's just me personally. Some guys love it. They're like, oh no, that's the best way to do it. I disagree with that, but that's okay.
Yeah. So after, several videos where I said, Nathan, how's this work? And he's like, you need to plug that into an isotap. And I'm like, I don't have an isotap. Besides, I've already done it. And he's like, I could tell he didn't actually do it. But
it's more of a safety thing because I don't want to see anyone get hurt because you can hurt yourself.
And I've seen comments like that. And I did finally get on the old eBay and I swooshed me up one. It's a vintage 1950s or 60s RCA WP-25A.
They made those for a long time.
It was old because the power cord had just disintegrated off of it. It wasn't there. And I thought, well, the chances of the inside of that being good are not bad, and you're going to see that fixed soon because I've already shot the source for it, but we're not doing it tonight. So it may be a while, y'all, but you will see that on the channel, and it's a really neat piece of equipment. So
so basically
very heavy duty, and I wonder just how many repairs were done through that thing,
probably a lot.
So, because it's got hours on it.
So if you decide you're going to try and work on an old piece of electronics, just be aware of the fact that hot ground does exist. And if you take a digital voltmeter and you put it on AC voltage testing, not current test, that'll burn the thing up, but put it on AC volts and then touch your earth ground connection, which may be, what do you have, like electrical outers, and touch it to the metal ground shield on something. And if it reads really anything above like 1 or 2, which is just usually floating voltage, but if it reads really anything, that's a hot ground. And you don't want to touch that. So, that's just a safety thing. If you don't understand how that works, please don't get into it. I mean,
learn your stuff before you start playing with electronics.
Because we
do it all the time, but we've all done it to some extent most of our lives, honestly. Some things we learned the hard way over those years.
Say, sometimes you just got to poke around in there and see what hurts.
As long as you don't see stars.
Just touch that red wire.
Don't do it. Don't do it. You will die. Be careful.
Actually, I don't honestly think you would die.
Well, you might want to.
It would hurt really bad.
Volts, you're not going to like it.
It's going to hurt bad.
One time I grabbed the anode cap on a TV that hadn't been plugged in years. And it put me against a wall.
Did it really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
They held that charge in those caps or something. So, my goodness.
I almost died.
I put the back on the TV and walked away because I thought I had almost died. I was like, no, I ain't touching that no more. All right.
How many TVs I've done that too?
Well, after it bites you once, it's usually done.
Well, yeah, but I was done. I was like, nope, no more.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for Echoes this week. Hey, we got a special segment. You know why?
Why?
Because there were CB radios in that stash there in N9CMM's collection. All those CBs. That just means 30TD has to do another CB Radio Talkin segment. So excited.
Ooh. 10-4, good buddy.
What word is it this week?
I was going to say, what are we learning?
Oh, no.
Yardstick.
Yardstick, eh?
Oh, no.
What's a yardstick?
I don't want to.
It's a device usually made out of some form of cheap wood that one uses to measure.
Well, in this case, it's made out of metal because it's a mile marker on the highway.
No kidding.
See how many miles you in. Okay. Yardstick 53, boys. 10-4.
So if you're not in the United States, it'd be a meter stick, or do they still call it a yardstick?
I don't know. I don't even think they CB radio talk in other countries. So
it does exist. I do know it does exist in other countries.
It exists, but I don't know if they have CB,
So
can the way America did it.
Can you say that you got to get off at Yardstick 53 to go get you some motion lotion?
You can.
Alrighty.
Keep them wheels turning, man.
Oh, my.
And that's CB Radio Talkin. Always such a short segment. That leaves us with one segment, Justin.
Dude, welcome to the waves.
It's that segment of three old tech dudes where we welcome a new ham to the hobby.
Awesome. Who is it?
This week it's Paul Wilson at Kilo Echo 8 Sierra Mike Papa.
Hey, Paul.
He's from Macomb Township, Michigan, and he's a new technician.
Oh, cool.
Excellent.
Welcome to the Amateur Radio Club.
Yeah. You just don't give up. Keep trying with it. Have fun with it. So, well, fellers, I don't know if I have anything else for this week. I'm all talked out.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else.
All right. Until next time, I'm Timmy.
I'm Justin.
I'm Nathan.
And this is Three Old Tech Dudes.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on Three Old Tech Dudes. Please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more tech old and new, tinkering at the workbench, repairs, ham radio, electronics, computers, and more. Please like this video and share 30TD with your friends to help us grow the channel. We tweet at 3 Old Tech Dudes 1 on Twitter, and you can keep up with us on Facebook. Just search for 30TD and look for our logo. Thanks so much for watching.